All right, today we're going on a journey, but probably not the kind you're thinking of. This one goes way beyond any map or timeline. It's really a quest to figure out what lies in that huge expanse of time before we started writing things down, before recorded history.
And we're kicking things off with this absolutely beautiful line from the poet Mir Taki Mir. It just perfectly sets the stage, doesn't it? It's all about time, about memory, and really about what it means to be human long after the dust of ages has settled.
So, this is the big question, right? The one at the heart of this whole thing. If history is just the part of our story that we documented, what about, well, everything else? What defined us in the time before written words?
So, our author's journey doesn't start in a physical place. Nope, it starts with an idea, a journey into something he calls smriti, which you can think of as the primordial memory of all humankind.
This is such a critical distinction to make. History, you see, is like a narrow, paved road. It's the collection of facts, the stuff we know. But smriti, or memory, that's the entire vast landscape all around that road. It's not just what we know, it's the very essence of what makes us, well, us. And just to be super clear, smriti isn't about remembering what you had for breakfast. It's about tapping into this huge, collective, ancient consciousness of humanity itself. So the author's journey, it's not just a trip, it's a search for the very roots of our existence. So let's see how this pretty abstract idea actually plays out in the real world. And that brings us to the first physical part of the journey, climbing Chauragarh mountain. This is where that big idea of smriti becomes a visible, tangible story you can actually see, a story about human belief. Just try to picture this scene, okay? You've got pilgrims struggling up this steep, rocky path, and many of them are carrying these really heavy metal tridents as offerings. They're climbing towards a myth, a story about a local person who became a deity because of a simple but powerful act of kindness to another human. And this is where the author observes this brilliant contrast. On the one hand, you have this burdened faith, people carrying these massive tridents just loaded down with ambition, with ego, with prayers that honestly feel more like a transaction. But then he notices something else, the quiet resilience of a child who eats a piece of fruit and just tosses the seeds on the ground, an act that gives life. And that, to him, is the true, silent music of humanity. This leads him to a really powerful thought. It's not about gods just existing out there somewhere. It's about our own capacity to create them. We build our own myths, our own deities, and yeah, our own demons, all from our experiences and our needs. We are the authors of our own spiritual realities. You know, as he watches these pilgrims struggling, he can't help but see the mental pollution of all that ambition. And it stands in such stark contrast to the pure, simple force of nature all around him, where you have trees just tenaciously growing straight out of bare rock, asking for nothing in return.
All right, so from the vertical climb of the mountain, our journey is now going to shift. We're moving to the horizontal flow of a river, the sacred Narmada. Here, people undertake what's called the parikrama. It's this absolutely massive journey, walking the entire length of the river and all the way back again. That's almost 2,900 kilometers. But the author sees it as way more than a ritual. For those who walk it, it becomes a temporary way of life, a life of wandering, observing, and really deep thinking.
And along the riverbank, he notices another fascinating divide. He sees older travelers who seem really burdened by sorrow, and their journey feels like it's driven by a need to gain something. Blessings, maybe, or forgiveness, or peace. But in contrast, the young travelers he meets are just serene. They seem completely free from all that desire and grief. But the most profound insight of all comes from a single encounter. He meets a man, not old, but with prematurely gray hair, who has simply closed up his shop for 6 months just to walk the river. So when the author talks to him, the man explains why he's there with this incredibly powerful line. He says he's come to leave his own shell behind. He isn't there to gain a single thing. He's there to shed something, the shell of his identity, his ego, all his worldly attachments.
And that's it. That becomes the core lesson of the river. The most meaningful journey isn't about acquiring stuff, whether it's merit or blessings. It's about shedding the parts of ourselves we don't need, leaving that shell behind, and just becoming lighter.
This brings us to the final realization, the part where the outer journey and the inner world finally click together. So after climbing the mountain of ambition and walking the river of letting go, the author finally gets it. The physical journey was never really the point. The mountain and the river, they were just metaphors for an internal landscape all along. The entire journey really boils down to this threefold truth. First, our experiences out in the world just mirror what's going on inside us. Second, the real peak we all have to conquer isn't some physical mountain, but a patient and unwavering mind. And third, the true river we all need to follow is a heart that just flows with compassion.
Ultimately, the author concludes that his journey isn't some unique special thing. It's universal. He found his mountain and his river, but the real takeaway here is that every single one of us has to discover our own.
And that, of course, leaves us with this final, powerful question. The author's journey was a quest for primordial memory, for understanding the human spirit. So what about you? What is your peak of ambition? What is your river of compassion? What is your quest?